Hello, this is an intuitive, energetic update message for the month of September 2024. There's a lot of energy updates out there on the internet, but my updates focus on how you can harmonize your energy with the energy that's going to be already present in the month so that you can thrive in the upcoming month to the best of your ability. Invite more of those joyful, loving experiences into your life. So let's dive in. The first thing I was feeling into for this month is that there's actually a lot of destabilization kind of energy in the collective. There's a lot of confusion and pressure, like mental pressure going on right now to figure things out, to have a clear path ahead. There's so many variables that are moving either on the individual level. And I imagine if you're a person here watching this video, you are definitely a person that is moving in your life. You are moving and changing and shifting, and you are craving more than what society programmed you to want for your life. You know there's something more for you in your life, and you can feel that deeply. And there's a part of you that is very tied to the old ways and that is comfortable in the old ways and found a lot of safety in the old ways and also got needs met. Like maybe you had certain relationships in your life because of the old ways that you were doing things. And so there's just these like inner conflicts, one after the other, that have been boiling to the surface. um, August was kind of a doozy for a month for some people, depending on where you're at in your journey. And there were some surprising events. There's some chaotic energy. The chaotic energy is more of this. Um, it's like the cracks in the foundation are starting to show collectively and individually. And this is not something to be scared of at all. It is showing up. This I said this last month, and I feel like I was getting ready to shoot this video, and I'm like, I feel like I'm going to be a little bit of a broken record here because I think this energy that we've been dealing with since March is going to come to completion. Um, I don't know. Geez, maybe October, November ish. Um, but there's just a lot of fear coming up around these conflicts of like when something boils up where it shows you there's a crack in your foundation because um maybe your nervous system isn't as calm as you'd like it to be. Maybe you are kind of creating chaotic events in your life. There's a lot of really random stuff happening that doesn't make you feel good. Maybe you're doing a lot of doubting, questioning, that kind of energy. That's that confusion, that pressure. So there's a lot of pressure on these conflicts to get it figured out. And that kind of energy actually keeps the pressure cooker, like the heat turned up, is the message. Like when we're putting pressure on ourselves to figure out what's the issue here, why do I have these cracks in my foundation, why can't I seem to figure X, Y, and Z out, why are things in this area of my life or possibly my whole entire life not going smoothly, why is all this stuff falling apart. It's showing you again where you need to build a better foundation. But so many people go into that fear, and then they stay up here where it's the mental pressure of figuring out. So whenever we're in an energy of I need to figure this out, we are actually in a subtle form of survival mode. We are in fight or flight, figuring out like this, like ravenous, like I gotta figure this out. That is definitely like a fighting energy. And so, if you're a person that's wanting to invite in more of that stability, that calm, that peace, that like balance and inner strength and centeredness in your life, I have a feeling you are. If you're watching this video, you've been asking for that, and these are the things that you have to look at in order to get to those places. And this is a broken record. It's like the more you can view your life from this lens of this, whatever's showing up is here to empower me. It is the answer that I've been praying for. It is the exact circumstances I need in order to resolve, transcend these energies. People are breaking huge cycles this year, huge trauma loops. So that's what when people are stuck in these cycles of energy of like, this always happens to me. Like, if you ever have those like thoughts, or like, things always turn out this way for me and it's not a good thing. Like, this kind of shit always happens to me, that kind of story. Those are trauma loops. And so there was an adversarial experience somewhere in your that lives in your body that you may not even be consciously aware of, but that's where those inner conflicts come from. So I really see September as a month that these conflicts between the heart and the mind are going to come to the forefront, because when you don't have your heart and your mind on the same page, the whole house, the whole foundation is shaky, because you have essentially a war going on between in your inner world. And so the energy of September is an energy of peace, of groundedness, of stability. And it's a lot of people think like, okay, like if we look back to August, maybe there were surprising things happening, maybe there was some chaos, maybe there was some drama, and people look at that as, when they're looking from their fear-based wounded ego mindset, they look at things are getting worse, things are, this is not getting easier, this is not working, I need to stop what I'm doing and maybe go back. Like, maybe you found yourself romanticizing the way things used to be. The reality is these conflicts have probably always been present in your life, you just haven't, you've been too disconnected from yourself to feel that the effects of that, but the effects of that were always being created. So now you're feeling the effects of these inner conflicts, and it is like the answer to what you've been praying for. But it's like you have to be able to face that within yourself with the love, with the kindness, with the compassion, and the empathy that it deserves. It's not about like, oh, my mind. There's so much of this rhetoric, and I'll get to um, what I was saying. Oh, sorry, I've got a couple thoughts going on here. There's just so much rhetoric online here, on social media, especially like the mind is the enemy, and like one is better than the other, being in your heart. Like, I'm a person that I'm like always turn back to the heart, always turn back to the body. That's because a lot of times there is just so much pressure, mental pressure, and programming, subconscious programming, that and impacts our mindset and the way we perceive the world, and we have zero idea that that's even there. That a lot of times it's so much more effective to try to communicate from the heart center. That doesn't mean that there can't even be programming in the heart area as well. So for some people it looks like I'm following my heart and it's not working out the way I want it to. Well, there's probably some things that you have built walls around your own heart center because of loss, because of pain in the past, and those things have to be dealt with. So if you're a person that's in that boat, you're like, I really do try to listen to my heart, and it's my life is getting harder. I've been in that boat. It's really about healing the heart, and the energies of September are incredibly powerful for healing the heart. Um, so this is what I was saying earlier. Ugh, hold on, I gotta finish the other thought. But the mind, if you're in your mind too much and you're not really in your heart space and you feel disconnected from that, it also is probably an issue of walls being built up here, and to the body, that have to be broken down. So it's like the inner conflict needs to be resolved, because really to thrive in the energies, especially in the coming years ahead, this pressure on all these conflicts is just going to continue to get greater. And that's, again, not a scary thing. It's so that we can finally see them, because they've been hidden. we didn't know, like we said, if you're like, I wish I could go back to the good old days, the way things were, it's so much easier back then. Um, it's like, no, these things have always been there. They've always been causing dysfunction in your life. You were just so disconnected from the impact of that, that it was normal and bearable and it seemed okay. And it's like now we're really seeing those impacts. And so the conflicts are just being shown to us so we can resolve them, and really getting the mind and the body and the heart on the same page is just so key. And if you're in your mind a lot, just know that there's a lot of fear going on that you probably have to deal with, a fear, anxiety, safety component. So nervous system work is going to be great for you, before you can even really start to address these major conflicts, right? So we have to have a sense of stableness, stability within our own being, that it's okay to even explore these conflicts, because sometimes these inner conflicts have a lot of charged emotions with them that need to be felt. And if you're already in a fear based state where you're overthinking all the time and you are not in your body and you are not connected to your heart and you feel like you're disconnected from your intuition, that is just a sign that you have to really just work on, first things first, safety. Safety, connecting to the body and the heart. You have to kind of establish a line of communication between the two before you can start to unpack what are the conflicts that keep them separated and in conflict with one another. So you're going to see that, I feel like, playing out in various ways in the collective energy, of like this conflict between the head and the heart, and then all the different distortions that are still present within the mind space and the heart space that are that are creating different conflicts. So, ironically, so people will think like, oh, well, then the energy of September is really about conflict. No, the energy of September is like this peaceful, heart healing, wholeness energy. It's a very wholesome energy. And I've been talking a lot about the seasons this year and these energy updates, and it's the harvest time in North America. And that's like, wow, you go to any grocery store or farmer's market and you see like the bounty of the season, like this just overpouring of abundance of all the fresh fruit and veggies. And it's like, this is the it's like this, yeah, this wholesome energy. And so people are like, well, then how does that create conflict, or how does that shine a light on conflict? Well, it puts pressure on anything that is abrasive to that peaceful, wholesome energy. And so that's when I do a lot. I have a free video. Okay, I'm going to leave it up, I guess, for another week after this video, and then I'm taking it down. It's called The Energetics of Manifestation. It's an hour and 15-minute masterclass. If you're watching this and you've already watched it, maybe go back and rewatch it, because I talk about the holographic nature of the universe in there, and that's what this means. So when we ask for peace in our life, and then in the month of September, there is like incredibly peaceful energy, it is going to reflect back to you all the parts of you that are not in resonance with that peaceful energy. So going back to what I was saying earlier, where people are like, oh my gosh, I'm going backwards. There's all this chaos and like things are going wrong, even though I'm asking for peace. It's like, no, you're bringing like the universe, creator, divine, God is always delivering that energy, what you're asking for, even if your mind is like, nope. And so that's the mind story too, that I feel like is really potent for a lot of people to explore this month, is their relationship to the divine, and how they feel like they have prayed for or asked for things in the past and they felt like they haven't got it because it hasn't come through in the way that their mind wanted it to go through. Um so the mind will spin stories of like, God abandons me, God turns his back on me when I am in need, or when I am in pain, or I am sick, or there is something wrong in my life and I'm asking for relief. it never comes. Like, that is actually such a deep wound in the genetics of the collective humanity, that is part of this inner conflict. If you're looking for that real stable foundation, there does need, and I hate to say this, but it's coming through, because I'm not here to push like religion or anything else like that. It's about just establishing a relationship with the loving, nurturing, creational force of the universe, whatever you call that. And the mind has often been programmed that that word is God or the universe or the divine, all these things, all these different concepts. For me, energetically, it's the same energy, but that's just my perspective. So take it or leave that. But I just think there are so many ways that we have even severed our mind from the divine mind that has all the creative solutions in our collective society. But we've got to solve these inner conflicts first. So September is also going to be a month for us to look at what kind of conflicts you have with the divine. Where do you feel like that your prayers have been unanswered? Where do you feel like, you have been punished? That's a huge theme, especially if you've gone through serious loss, serious heartbreak, whether that was like a romantic relationship or a death of a loved one or a pet or anything like that, where you maybe asked God to save that person and it didn't come through. You asked God to resolve a situation and it got worse to your mind. These are the really hard things that we have to resolve within ourselves to really get everybody on the same page and get the real creative solutions flowing, the real creativity, the gifts, the blessings, the joy, is on the other side of all these conflicts. So if you're a person that's conflict avoidant, that might be also why you are in your mind a lot, because you've had so many examples in your life of where conflict and your DNA also, this is huge genetic clearing happening this month, with our relationship to peace, conflict, and the divine is really what it feels like for me. But so yeah, I mean, most of our genetic ancestors experienced wars, experienced conflict in such severe ways that it really traumatized them and scared them. And most people did not have the tools to resolve that kind of conflict. So trauma loops themselves are just really strong inner conflicts of a part of you that wants one thing, and another part of you wants another thing, usually a safety need or a resource or an emotional need that is directly in conflict with moving forward in your life somehow, and that you will spin round and round and round until you figure out how to soothe the parts of yourself that have those underlying needs that were shown during trauma, during extreme pain, during war, that it was not safe to move forward, or these were the only ways to get these very, very important survival needs met. So just recognize when these conflicts are coming up, that's all it is a part of you that is very scared. And the more you can love on it, that's always my message, is like, love on the parts, love all the parts. The wholeness energy of September is like recognizing that when there's an inner conflict, because the mind likes to be like, well, I have these goals, I have these things I want to do, and I don't really care if my body feels safe about it or not. I don't really care if there was trauma in the past or not. I'm going to go do this stuff. But that part is always going to be nagging at you, and depending on how strong that energy is, strong that need is tied to your survival, the harder it will be to unlock the trauma loop. So most people see these trauma loops as self-sabotage, as God's turning their back on me. The divine is turning their back on me. My prayers are not being answered. Ooh, I feel myself getting a little angry about that. And so these are the emotions that need to be felt because there's so much anger about these conflicts, and it's okay. It's okay. I promise you, I've gone through a lot of these things on my own, and about, yeah, where are times where my ancestors or I have personally felt like I prayed for something and it came through in a really messed up manner, or it came through or didn't come through, and I lost something important to me. And I had to get angry about that first. And I had to feel that anger, feel that fire. And I promise no one's going to punish you for that. God is not going to punish you for that, whatever word you want to use. Try to not use the word God, but really, most of us have subconscious programming with the word God because it is just, that was, most of our ancestors knew that energy as God. So, again, not religious, but yeah, these conflicts, that's what keeps people stuck in these patterns that feel like suffering, that feel like you can never move forward. And so, like, when I was tapping in the energy, I feel like to the mind, a lot of the energy lately has felt like walking through molasses. Like, you're making progress, but it feels incredibly slow, like this one step forward, maybe 15 steps backward kind of energy, not even like one step forward, two steps back. And it's because you have to create the solid foundation, that is the heart, the soul, like the higher self, even if you want to call the divine that energy, like that higher mind, getting them all on the same page. Which all you have to do is just be present with all parts of you, accept all parts of you, accept that anger, accept that grief, accept all the emotions. And that is easier said than done because there's usually a lot of fear even around those things. So I was talking about being conflict avoidant. Usually what we are avoiding is the emotional backlash of a conflict in today's day and age. Now, that's not to say that there aren't times in humanity's existence that where we were taught that conflict didn't just mean like someone's mad at me and I should just be able to deal with that. It meant that no, that person could kill me, kill my family, take my my livelihood, like really bad stuff could happen. And that does still happen in certain parts of the world, and most likely there's a story running deep in your DNA that that is a possibility for you. And so, giving yourself some grace of like you're trying to overpower generations of these like deep traumas with your mind and your willpower, and it's exhausting because you are trying to override these very, very strong survival instincts that allowed you to get to where you're at today. So having compassion for those ancestors that had to develop these adaptations, these coping mechanisms, and maybe they're not healthy. Now we're like, oh, I'm conflict avoidant or I'm codependent and all these things. Well, they probably came about because at a certain point in your family, something really, really bad happened and it really, really hurt them. And they had zero resources to help them through that, and or they lost their lives. And so that just lives on. Now we have the resources. Now is the time. Um, and they talk about this in spirituality, they talk about this concept, the veil is thinning. To me, all that means is that the density here on earth feels like it's getting a little less and less and less, which means it's easier to feel things. So that's why I started this video with saying, like, you probably had this stuff going on all along, but you're like wishing to go back to the good old days, which is a part of that trauma loop, thinking that the past is better than where you can move forward. It's also probably a very deep safety mechanism saying, like, well, if I move forward, I'm opening myself up to all kinds of unknown experiences that could include things that I'm not prepared for. Because at least the trauma I've experienced and my family's experienced in the past, I know how to deal with that because I've dealt with that before. But this unknown thing over here that could open up some trauma that I have no idea how to deal with. These are the trauma loops. And if you really are resonating with this conversation, yeah, nervous system work, you are probably in a frozen state. There's people that have different explanations of what it means to be in a freeze, but to me, energetically, freeze means that it's not safe to go back and it's not safe to go forward, and so you're just stuck. And the way forward is establishing that foundation so you can feel peace in your being, exploring these conflicts, resolving them, getting all the parts on the same page, and then you'll be able to move forward. And that's what it'll feel like. Okay, I think that's my message for September. So, again, just continuing to give yourself grace, love, compassion, and know that, okay, what's coming up isn't here as evidence that something is going wrong or I'm doing something wrong or the universe isn't delivering or whatever that story is when stuff goes wrong in your life. And I'm not saying that things are going to go wrong this month, but there's always ups and downs, little ups and downs in every month. But the things that are showing up to you where you're like, I don't like that. This is part of your answered prayers. So just remember that. Give yourself grace and the space to be curious with compassion about those inner conflicts. And then you'll be able to tap into the energy of peace, of wholeness. And this, like, really, it's like a glass lake, is what September feels like to me, like smooth sailing energy, but it's going to bump up up against all the parts of you that don't want that smooth sailing for one reason or another because they are stuck living in the past. Okay. Enjoy your September. I love you so much. If you need one-on-one support, like, this is literally my work. I do what I was describing today, and I have no intention of like selling my work, but it's just like this is the process that I help people deal with. I work through the subconscious spheres. I help people like build real foundations in their nervous system for safety, and we can explore these inner conflicts, rewire the subconscious. That's what I do with my work one on one and also groups. So check out the links below this video if this interests you, and I will see you soon. Bye.